for everybody that's listening, Gwendolyn and I have been working together for about a year. Gwendolyn is somebody who I not only trust and rely on to, help spread the ASFX brand and what we're creating here as far as pushing self-sufficiency behind systematic trading, but I also turn to her for just, a fresh approach, a fresh perspective on other ideas with our brand and our growth too. So I hold Gwendolyn's opinion to a high standard, which is why I wanted to get her on here and on the YouTube channel for you guys, because I think that there's one thing, and we're really going to talk about that here in the next hour or so. There's one thing that I think you guys can all learn from her, even I can learn from her. So I want to just kind of dive into it for the first time on the call with you guys. And then hopefully by the end of this, everybody, whether you're consistent and you're just watching because you like Gwendolyn, you like me, and you want to just hear your friends talk, or if you're struggling and you're trying to find that consistency, hopefully by the end, you still pull some value out of it. So before we get into the one thing that I want to really dive into, the main topic of today, the title of the video, Gwendolyn, do you want to intro yourself a little bit to everybody real quick?
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Gwendolyn. I'm a 31-year-old trader from Sacramento, California. I'm about an hour and a half away from the Pacific Ocean. It's pretty great. I've been trading for a little over a year and a half now, and yeah, I've been working with Austin for almost a year, and I'm really excited for how everything's been developing. It's been pretty fantastic.
You've come on at an awesome time. You've seen the explosive growth of ASFX and everything like that. And there was a lot of digging I know that you had to go through to find us, just as there was digging that Riley and I had to go through to get to this point. And we can go at that a little bit. But to start the call, you said something to me last week, I believe it was, when we were on a call, you, me, and Riley, talking about some future ideas. You had mentioned that you had never blown a trading account. And that took me back. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, and again, we've been doing this. I've been doing this now for 5 years. I've talked to a lot of people. There's very, very few, if any, traders that are still trading today, past a year, past 2 years, that could say that they've never blown an account. So when you said that to me, I was like, oh my God, that is perfect, not only for the title of a video, but that's perfect because I think that there's something that you have tapped into that a lot of new traders aren't able to tap into. So I wanted to talk to you more about that. Can you give us any information on maybe why you think you've never blown an account, you knowing yourself better than anybody? And I know even now you've been doing a lot of self-reflection and digging deep on who you are. So now with all this newfound information that you're finding even recently, any idea on why that would be?
It's funny because in the Philly seminar, Riley had asked me, what's something you would tell a beginning trader? And the first thing I said was find a mentor. And that is literally why I have never blown an account, because when I first started trading, I wasn't trading Forex, I was trading crypto. And when I was trading crypto, I was following some guy that I don't even think he trades anymore, but he always told us, make sure you're using a stop loss. You never want to go into a trade without a stop loss. You only want to risk X amount of 1% of your account. And so that was where I started, was only the most I ever risked on an account was 1%. And then when I moved to Forex, I moved to a different education group where they also said, always use a stop loss, don't risk more than 1%, and because I was using systems that were proven and profitable, even though I wasn't trading them very well, that I was getting enough in to where I was winning enough to not, going too far into drawdown. I think the maximum drawdown I've been in was about 13%.
That's incredible. And I feel like one thing that you're saying that a lot of new traders overlook is your approach to risk management. So can you tell us a little bit now, being with ASFX for however many 8 months or so, you said, how has your approach towards risk management changed versus that 1% mentality?
Well, since we use a grading system, I actually kind of like it better, because now I know if I'm going to take not as great of a setup, or maybe it's a setup that I'm just personally not super strong in, I can just risk a little bit less. With my other systems, it was 1%, no matter what the setup is, it's just 1%. Every setup is treated the exact same. And I like that, we're not, we don't treat every setup the exact same, because every setup isn't the exact same. So now with my risk management, I am actually risking, I think, typically 1% on a good trade, and I risk typically 0.5% for B setups and stuff. So I've actually I've been more conservative coming into ASFX.
do you think that that conservative attitude has led to, I guess you could say, survival, or do you think the conservative attitude has led to more money left out on the table? Which side of that cup do you feel?
Um, I wouldn't say it's more money left out on the table, because when you're using like if you're using less of your account, I think it's serving a purpose. So when I was trading in February, I was actually kind of in a bad mentality, and I was usually risking about 0.5% on a trade. And then I was like, I can make up this loss with 1%. Okay, maybe I can make up this loss with 1%. And I started going down this hole. So when I started trading in March, I was trading 0.25% straight through, because I was like, well, you have to rebuild the trust in yourself. And I have to essentially rebuild the responsibility that I given myself when I was trading higher. So,
Sure.
excuse me. Yeah. So like trading lower, just, I don't know. I don't feel like I was leaving money out, because I was making sure that my mindset was correct.
When you say you're making sure your mindset, that was exactly where I was trying to go with it. What about that specifically was incorrect that needed to be corrected with what you were doing previous with your mindset?
Being too greedy, like essentially trying to like hold on to C trades and squeeze everything that I could out of the market. And I realized like that's not the way to be profitable. I don't need to catch the whole move. I don't even really need to risk that much. Like I just need to do the right things. And until I do the right things, then I can't increase my risk again.
So that's very well said. I want you to even go a little deeper, if you can, for the people listening, about when you say do the right things. What's one or two things that you have to do right every day now that you maybe weren't doing right before?
Focusing on the process and just not worrying about what the trade is going to do. If the trade is meeting my parameters and it's telling me, okay, my system is telling me, hey, I can get into the trade, then I should get into the trade. If my system's telling me, hey, maybe you should back off of the trade, then I should back off of the trade. And if the trade goes without me, that's okay. That's fine. And I think that that's something that I've really had to learn.
I feel like we all have had to go through that. For me, like trying to learn that lesson in particular cost me a lot of money, but it made me resilient, and it really, I think, tested my character. And when I've overcome that, it proved to me who I truly could be. So for people that are new, when we've seen these lessons almost that you almost want to tell people that they have to take the losses in order to learn the lessons. Do you think that there's any other way that you or I or anybody in our position now could go back and avoid those losses that led to valuable lessons? Is there any way to learn that? I mean, I guess mentorship, like you said at the beginning, but is there any other way? Is that the only way?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of this stuff with trading, I feel like you can hear it, but until you literally go through it and see it, and you're like, oh, okay, sorry, I don't know how to decline. Okay, sorry about that. Got a phone call.
No, you're good. You're good. You're busy.
Yeah, so it's like, where was I? Sorry, can you remind me where we were just at?
No, you're good. So let's actually, because instead of even repeating what we were talking about, let's divert it a little bit deeper back to the original point here of not blowing that first account. So when you funded your first account and you started to trade with the group that you were with before us, how was that process? And was it really the system that wasn't working, or were you still overcoming some of those issues that we were just talking about and that wasn't working with the previous group?
With the previous group, I feel like I was much more like, with our group, we have the chat, so you can really just talk to people. You know what I mean? It's very direct. And with the other group I was with, we were on more of a forum style thing. So if I wanted to connect with people, I had to kind of like more reach out towards people. And I was a very reserved person, very anxious, very nervous. So it's difficult. It was difficult for me to reach out to people. And so I didn't really feel like I was getting as much out of it as I could. And when I look back, even now looking back at my early trading journal, it's like I wasn't really even trading the system. And I think if I was trading with the community, or if at least I was sharing my markups, then people would have seen, they would have been like, oh, hey, you're not doing it. Like, you think you're putting in the work, you're just going through the motions, because obviously if you were putting in the work, it would show up on your charts, and it's not.
Right. The redundancy of like getting trapped in this repetitive, like, I think I'm busy. I think I'm busy, but you're not really productive. But I'm busy, but I'm not productive. But I'm busy, but I'm not productive. But I'm trading, but I'm not learning. But I'm trading, but I'm like that repetitive thing. That's like this cycle of what I think. Even Dan and I, the guy who I did this first call with before you, he was saying the same thing, that he caught himself a couple months ago in that same negative feedback loop of thinking that he's busy, thinking he's doing the right things, but in reality, he wasn't being productive. He wasn't growing. He wasn't pushing himself that way. So if you could go back to when you started, which is relatively recent, and I think for a lot of traders, you've had a shorter learning curve than most. If you could go back and shorten anything specifically, and this is kind of what we were talking about before with the mentorship, is there any aspect of trading? Is it specifically risk management that you would have said, let me take a look at this 1% per trade thing? That's questionable. I don't think I should go at that. Do you think there was something more about specifically would you go back and try to cut the learning curve with?
I would probably start, because it's something I never really did, was compare my charts to other people's charts. Like I didn't compare my trades to anyone else's trades. I was like, I need to learn this kind of like by myself almost. And I think if I was going to shorten my learning curve, I would have literally just shared more of what I was doing so that I could get corrected. That's it. Like that probably, I mean, I'm a year and a half now and I'm like kind of killing it, I probably could have killed it within like 6 to 9 months with just sharing, being corrected, and then moving forward versus trying to correct myself with 100%. No real guidelines. Yeah.
100%. That is, and I'm in that same boat. Like that is where, every corny sentence and corny quote of accountability like, because it's true. There is no growth. There's no pushing ourselves further. There's no actually getting better if we're not being held accountable. For me, it was putting my trades on social media, starting to like mix my trading with my entrepreneurial spirit. When I was able to do that, it allowed me to be more accountable and it held me to a higher standard. And then, like I've talked to you about before, it kind of fed the high achiever in me to reach that standard and actually get to that point. So I want to ask you about that too, because I was talking to somebody this morning about the aspect of trading where it gives us the ability every day to show up and be better. Does that motivate you? Like, do you focus on that as something that helps you jump out of bed every day and helps you stick to the rules and helps you, or has that never crossed your mind?
No, I definitely think that the opportunity to literally do better every time that you come back to the charts is something that really, really helps me, like feeds my passion. Because before I was one of those people where I was like, oh, it's Monday, great, like the whole week, and now I'm like, okay, it's Friday, like what can I do to get prepared for Monday? Okay, it's Monday, what am I doing to make sure I'm on track for the rest of the week? What did I do on Monday that's going to help me on Tuesday? And yeah, it's just, yeah, like the challenge of the market every day, it's something different, like you're still looking for the same setup, but literally because no 2 days, no 2 moments in the market are like, no 2 seconds are like, every single trader that was trading that, I don't know, 10 minutes ago isn't trading 10 minutes into the future. So like every moment's unique and you just have to be prepared for that. And I think that really feeds into the ability of like why you want to keep going at it every day.
So what motivates you more than that? What, after you've done these conversations with Riley, those mindset coaching conversations, and I know you and her talk a lot, even past those conversations, what have you found recently that really motivates you to continue to get better? Because even like you said, I know you've been killing it. And that's why I wanted you on here, because I want you to be a really good example of people that are new in our group, people that are just getting started in trading, that 12 months into this, you're going to feel a lot better than you are today. You know what I'm saying? And you're a perfect example of that. But what else motivates you? What else drives you now that you've tapped in deeper to your why? It seems like now more than ever. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I feel like that too. And I think it's because before I was kind of like, I really tied all of my like self-value to being a trader, and I kind of treated trading as like this end goal. Whereas now I'm kind of expanding my identity. Like I'm more than just my trading, and trading is a tool to get me to really reach what I'm trying to do in my life, which is just simply help people. And I think trading is a great tool to help people, because people that are into trading are trying to help themselves, and those are the best people to help. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think connecting with the reason that all, you know, like I want to get good at trading so I can show other people too, like, hey, you can come from a place where you didn't have money to eat groceries, and like, you know, it's terrible. Like $20 to last 2 weeks for two people is very hard. It's very hard to stretch that. But I'm trying to show people that like with enough persistence and just belief and faith in yourself, you can overcome that. And I think trading is just a great avenue to do that.
I think that was so well said. What do you think keeps people from jumping into trading? Like when you were, you know, go back 2 years, say from today, what was keeping you from jumping in? Because now with your approach now and the mindset that you have now, it literally sounds like I'm talking to myself in the mirror half the time when I talk to you. And I love that, because that I know is what can translate into, like you said, that to actually getting you from today to where you want to be. So what would you, you know, 2 years ago, think about where you were then. What do you think, if anything, has been the biggest change in the perspective that you apply, not to the market, not to anything else, but to yourself? Have you done any major self-reflection that's led to some type of perspective switch?
Yeah, I mean, like it's been a lot of, first it's just like one big aha moment. It's just been like a lot of little ahas here, a little tweak there. Like all the different books that I've read kind of give me another perspective. Or I've been rereading Atomic Habits, the one that you recommended by James Clear. Yep. And I'm just like, wow, like I remember kind of reading it, but I didn't realize how much of that book I had truly like internalized with like focus on your process and like try and create systems around everything that you do. Because you know, the quote he says is like, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So if you have these systems in place, as someone that, as I struggled with like mental health issues and stuff, like I want to make sure I have systems to fall back on. And to me, that's like probably been the biggest thing, is like figuring out that I am a systematic person. I need to have things organized in a certain way, and that doesn't make it, it doesn't make me any less of a person or a different kind of person. It just, that's just how it has to be, and that's okay. I think like a lot of self-acceptance too.
What in your trading specifically have you had to organize to stay on track? Because I can relate to that a lot. Like I have, everybody's got their own issues, right? Like I know who I am internally, and I know that I like to play. So what have you done to implement something into your trading? I know we talk all the time about our rules. You and I have worked specifically on our trading plans together, but what specifically, for someone even listening that's maybe trying to tighten down, how could you direct them? Like what have you went at and said, look, this part of my trading needs no other way around it. It has to be. And then that kind of maybe led to more, I would assume, systemizing.
Yeah. Sorry, you broke up a little bit. So with my organization, it was just like, I was doing my chart markups and I was just kind of keeping them by date. I wasn't really tracking. I was just like tracking the markup and the pair. But now with like something I'll do is I'll track up the pair, the direction, the signal, and then like the specific entry formation. And that really just helps me so that when I'm going through my stuff and I'm like, oh, you know, I want to look up like 3 candle formations. Like maybe I'm thinking about taking a trade on this 3 candle formation and I want to make sure that this is something that's valid. Then I can just kind of like look through my markups and be like, oh, here's a 3 candle. Okay, this is what it should look like. Okay, here it is. So it just helps me like keep track of everything, and so it's easier to compare if I need to.
Were you doing the markups like that and implementing the systems like that when you first started? Could that be something to kind of maybe tie us back to the original point? Could that be something that maybe helped you from ever blowing that first account? Like, have you always been systematic to some extent, but then you maybe went more detailed over time?
Yeah, exactly. I've always been somewhat systematic, and as I've been like dialing my process, I feel like that's been helping with my trading. Because before, like I'm like right now, something I'm working on is consistently choosing a time to do my markups. Whereas I do markups every day, it changes from day to day, and I really want to dial that in. So if I'm like, you know, okay, every day at 2 o'clock, that changeover of day, that's when I do my markups. I'm trying to work on processes like that.
out of all of, and that was, I think when I cut off, my question was like, of those processes specifically, like that one right there, routine, that's a big one. What else in the trading have you systemized specifically? Because I know we've worked on our plans together. What else, maybe even for people, like I was saying, that are listening, that are trying to add something that is systemized, where would you direct them in their own trading?
I would just kind of direct maybe like with a pre-trading routine, because that will help you get into the correct mindset that you want to be in to trade. For me, that's I do meditation. I just do 10 minutes right before. I literally will sit in front of the chart, and before I even open the thing up, I just close my eyes. I take 10 minutes and I kind of just breathe. I slow my breathing down, because I know that normally when I get to the charts, I get a little anxious. I'm like, ready. I'm like, oh boy, we hit the charts, market's open. It's my time to trade. And I'm like, to kind of counteract that, I'm like, okay, so I need to slow down before I even get to the charts. So that way, if I like feel myself kind of getting anxious, I can be more cognizant of that. So maybe some process would be create a pre-trading routine to help you slow down before you get to the charts. Because I think a lot of us start going too fast because we get excited, especially if it's been slow and you really are just itching to just get into a trade. You need to make sure that you're being, cognizant of your rules and stuff. So just kind of create a pre-trading routine to help you slow down, focus, get ready, and then you'll be prepared to trade, and you'll be able to make more clear-headed decisions. And I think that'll help a lot of newcomers.
I definitely agree with you 100% with what you were saying about avoiding those bad trades and like slowing down overall. I feel like that's the death by 1,000 paper cuts kind of thing, where if you're taking every trade idea that you have, you're not going to make money, in my opinion. And I think you'd agree with me there too. You won't make money in the long term if you just take every idea that you have. You're supposed to generate a lot of ideas. And I actually can take a quote from Mike Belfiore. He said, the best, like most elite traders generate the most trade ideas. Think about it, law of numbers, you know what I mean? And we are playing in a game where that does apply. So if you generate the most ideas but can control yourself from getting into all of those trades, and you can be selective in the ones that you want, that's where I think you can definitely find what we would call an edge. So before you were with us, and again, back to the topic, still staying on the topic, I should say, of how you didn't blow that first account. How did that first account grow? Because I know you said you went into less than 15% drawdown, which is like incredible in the first account, because most people go straight to 100% and then they trash the account, right? Other than that, like after that low point at whatever that was, how have you come back from that? And what was the turn there? Like what caused you to hit that point and say, you know what, this is not going to continue anymore?
I think I hit the worst part of my drawdown, and then I hit like a 7% winner, like right after that, right?
Wow.
And then I was like, okay, there's something going on here, right? Like this was a lucky trade. I looked at it, and that 7% winner actually ran 13% in like 2 days. It was kind of an insane move. Yeah. So wow. I was like, okay, wow, I am missing something. And I was like, maybe is it the strategy? And I was like, well, I'm paying a lot of money for this. Maybe I'll just take some time away and kind of sit on my own and figure out, is this the time frame for me? Is this the structure that I want to be trading? And I think after that, I just really slowed down. I wasn't trading very much because I wasn't involved with any community at that point. And that kind of really stopped the bleeding. I mean, if you're not trading, you can't lose money. And then
exactly.
Yeah, and then turning it around was just, I chose to join ASFX because I was like, well, the system I was trading before, they were like, indicators are crap, you can't use them, they lag and they're inefficient, and you're never going to make money trading that way. And I was like, well, maybe I will, because this guy seems to do it. And so I just kind of took a chance, and because the system really communicated with me, it was like, it was on the 1 minute chart, the 15-minute chart. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be, if I'm going to lose a trade, I want to know that I'm just going to lose it. I don't want to be in a trade for 2 days and then it turns against me. Like, that is so drawn out, so I found a system that actually,
not investing, not even trading.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it takes so long for that. And so finding a system that really spoke to me and that fit my personality, I think, is where it really changed. Like, they say not to system hop, and I think that should be almost qualified in a way. Like, don't system hop from 1 month to the next month to the next month. But if you've given a system 6 months, you know, and you've back tested it and you're just not really cohesive with it, maybe try something else, you know? So
Right, because not
yeah.
it's definitely not for everybody. You know what I mean? There's people that make money without indicators, like you were saying, but that's just not what, you know, what works for us. But it's interesting too. You were with a group that was closed-minded to the idea of indicators making money. Anything in our group, has anything ever been closed-minded? I think we're probably the most open-minded group. I'm like, yo, who's got the best idea? Because, you know, the truth of the matter is it has nothing to do with anybody's ego, nothing to do with anybody's business. We're here to make money, whether it's with indicators, without indicators. I don't care what you need. Tell me how we're going to make money. That's the point of all of this. I feel like that's another thing I've watched you transform with your approach of being very analytical. Let me analyze what I'm doing every day, but then also stepping back and looking at the bigger picture of like, I'm here to make money. And the only way that I'm going to make money is by actually kind of tightening it in. So then that kind of stretches it out, but brings it back in at the same time. So it's an interesting, like, double perspective you get from there. And I've watched you kind of grow into that. Now, with where you were, if you could go back to the day, because I think a lot of people, you know, follow you and I, they know that we work together, they know what's up. I think they're going to end up coming to you and asking you questions about ASFX. If you could go back to when you were on the fence of joining, when you had just seen me the first time, or I had just sent you that first message, whatever it was, what would you tell yourself now if you could go back and talk to yourself then?
I'd probably tell myself, I'd be like, dude, if you're super nervous about trying to change systems, just reach out. Literally just talk to someone. Like you know, you made it so that you were very approachable, you know, because I think you have like over 40,000 followers now. You weren't that big when I had
45, 40, 45.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, 45,000 followers, you know, that's like nothing to scoff at. So it was like, I felt comfortable kind of like approaching you and just being like, hey, I'm going to buy your course. You know, I'm just letting you know. So if I could go back and let's say you had that many followers now, I would just find someone to reach out to and talk to. Like, it's so easy to just verify that there's real people trading this system. Like, I feel like a lot of people that are getting scammed out of money, they're not trying to reach out and talk to anybody. You know,
Exactly.
they're just giving their money, handing their money over to someone, and it's like,
Do you even feel,
well,
literally, can you feel bad for them at that point, right?
exactly. It's like, what research did you do? Did you even like look anything? Did you even type their name into Google? You know what I mean?
At once, you gave somebody even $300. Like, you're giving away any amount of money, but you didn't even look me up. You just gave it to an Instagram account that had pictures of me. That doesn't even, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't even make sense. But that's why it's hard for it to feel bad. But at the same time, the approach that we can then bring, like literally, I've got a guy who I've been talking to for a couple of weeks. He got scammed by a fake account of me. This is real. Like, this is very real. He's probably watching this video. And then literally that day was like, yo, I'm going to sign up with you as soon as I can, you know, get my money back together and get this thing back and rolling. I don't want to dip into my savings for this. I just want to make the money back with my regular job, and then I'm going to buy it from you. I was like, totally understand. But to see him take that flip and just be like, I just got scammed, but I'm still going to come buy the real thing. That's what still keeps me going. That's what motivates me more than anything. Because then it's like, there's still people out there that are willing to go through it and eat it like I did, just to get the get at the end. You know what I mean? Just to get the value at the end. So it's motivating at the same time. It's like, you don't feel bad. You got to feel bad for some of them. You know what I mean? You don't feel too bad, but then at the same time, you find some really awesome people that are just so hungry, you know, like you, like me, like Ryan, like everybody that's been in our group for a while. You know what I mean? With the way that you've kind of grown inside your trading, how has that applied to your personal life and things outside of trading? Because I feel like the perspective of, hey, I can go into trading and I can be one of those select people that never blows an account, and I can have that discipline and that skill. How have you then taken where you started there, which is, I would say, higher than the average, how you've taken that up in your trading, but how has that translated over into your personal life and maybe amplified the way you handle relationships, conflict, communication, anything specific come to mind?
I will say I have, because of my own belief in myself, I've been able to really inspire and push some of the people that are really closest to me and that mean a lot to me to really just go for what they want to go for. Like, I'm like, dude, you know, just, you've seen me just eating crap for so long now, and now you see it's finally paying off. And I'm like, and you're at a place where you don't even have to eat the crap like that. You know what I mean? Like, go for your dreams. Just chase what you want, dude, because it's like, if you just work for it and you know and you know that you are going to accomplish it, you really can. And like having almost like proof of that has been very powerful for me to like use it to help motivate other people around me. And yeah, and then like with
Yeah.
with like having to tighten down my rules and stuff like that, like I've really been trying to focus on being more disciplined in my personal life. Like, okay, I want to make sure I'm like, if I'm going to do these chart markups every day, then I should read these pages every day, like 10 pages of a book. If I'm going to do 10 chart markups, you know, like it's helped with my my discipline off the charts. Minus exercise, I'm just lazy right now, but I'm still working on that too.
That's the quarantine life for all of us. When they close the gyms, it's hard, you know what I mean? But so that gets a little bit of a pass, I guess, from me. But I feel like that's exactly what I've seen from you too. Is like even with your content now that you're creating on social and everything like that, like the discipline has translated now from trading. It's somehow seeped its way into your real everyday life, and it's pretty cool to see that because it's like in the same way that who you hang around, you become the habits that you implement in one area of your life. If you're really firm on them, it's almost like they translate over. And that's something I'm sure that you've taken also from that Atomic Habits book. They translate over then into every other area of your life. You know what I mean? So if you could
Yeah.
go back, one more question for now, as far as flashback, could you, again, because it's coming from someone like me, who's when I first started, you know, I mean, I blew a ton of accounts, $100 account, clipped them off like it's nobody's business because I didn't have any idea of what risk management was. If you could go back and, you know, work with someone like me, like let's say you're in the position that you're in now, that you know what you know now, but you see someone who's struggling and they're trying to just find their way. How could you prevent them? If you could tell them anything, what would you tell them to prevent them from blowing that first account? Like, yo, they're about to fund it. They just put the money in. They're about to go forward. You see them. How do you check them to make sure they don't blow that first account?
I would ask them like, first off, like, you know, why are you trading? Like if you're trading to make money for your family later on, do you think that risking this whole $100 in one trade is respectful to them? You know what I
It's
mean?
true.
Like I've got
Yeah.
that from you. It's like how you're treating your account is essentially how you're treating what you hope to accomplish with that account. So if you're just going to blow that account, obviously the dream that you're trying to chase with that account, it means nothing to you. But if it
Right.
means something to you, then maybe you should just slow down and think about that. You know, just try and be respectful of whatever dream it is. Like it's your dream. You're the only person that can respect it. Nobody
But
else really cares.
I want it so bad. I want it right now. How are you going to tell me to respect it and slow down? I want it right now. I need it right now.
It's just like, man, because like you just like I face this all the time, especially like I had a conversation with Riley about something that I want, which is the more you pull on it, it's almost like you're white knuckling it and you're trying to like pull it towards you. And it's, you know, nobody wants to be pulled like that. Like nobody's like I'm not going to give someone a hug that's like pulling on me. But if you just like open your arms and you're like, hey, come on in, you know, you bring it in, you
Absolutely.
attract it and you're confident, you know, gentle with it. Like blowing accounts is just kind of like you're trying to punch it in the face. Like, no, that's not how you win at life even. You know, you don't punch life in the face. You
Exactly.
dance with it. You flow with it, you know?
Exactly. And that's like a parallel that you get right exactly from your trading into real life. Whenever the reference literally, it's funny we're having the same conversation. I should do all of these recordings with all of the traders, like the first 10, and see how many times I have the same conversation before I put it out. Literally, me and Dan said the same thing. The same thing. That's so crazy. And you both share the same opinion on it, which is interesting. You know what I mean? But at the same time, not surprising. My last question for you, I want to kind of tie things together here, is if you could be in the position that you are in now, which you're now set up to grow and help other people, which is a part of your why and a part of what you want to do. If you could be in this position a year ago, do you think you would be further ahead now just because of the year that you would have behind this idea? Or do you think it would be a detriment? Do you think you needed to go through the losses, you needed to eat it, you needed to struggle, you needed to feel the downs in order to feel the highs? Is there any way that anybody listening this far into our conversation could maybe cut a couple of those downs out if you could look back on it?
No, because I kind of feel like everything is like timing is everything, you know, and you may think that you're ready for something, and you're just not. If the universe, I've been in a position where I got a windfall of money and I should not have gotten a windfall of money because I was in no position to do anything with it. I didn't have any rules in place. I didn't learn the techniques and stuff that I needed to turn that money into more money, and I ended up blowing it all, you know? So it's like, I feel like I definitely, if this was given to me a year ago, I would have screwed it up. I probably would have blown my account. I would have had everybody blowing accounts. We would have been, I don't know, just going crazy because I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? I needed to go through all of those losses. I needed to go through those sleepless nights. I needed to have all of the existential crises of like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm pounding my head into the wall and coming back for more. Like, who does that? Like, I needed to go through all of that so that I could help people. But I still think that a lot of people, like, no matter how much we tell them, they're still going to have to hit that wall at least a little bit. You know what I mean? It's just because you're going to be, it's natural. Like, even if you were really great,
It's like you're
you're
fighting
going
a
to,
human bias, right?
yeah, you just got to go through a little bit of struggle so you can see why, you know, like why we're saying what we say. Like, okay, trade, you know, one of the things, one of my favorite, like trading cliches is like the trend is your friend. And it's like, until you really try to trade against the trend repeatedly, you really won't understand why the trend is your friend. Try to call 16
You never
reversals.
know that. That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah. Like, you know, like you just kind of have to go through that.
That's so true. Yep, yep. With the one point that you said today that really stuck out with me that I didn't expect us to touch on was what you were mentioning about mentorship. So I guess the last thing, if you could leave everybody, the new traders, the struggling traders, and even some of the people that are maybe consistent but want to add something to it, how would you position to them the idea of mentorship? Because a lot of people think they don't need it. A lot of people think that education isn't worth it. A lot of people think that they can just put money in trading and either they start making money and they think that's the only way, or they still are stubborn and they just continue to throw money at it without mentorship. So how would you pitch them the idea that mentorship is the shortcut to success?
Um, I mean, like, you think Barry Bonds was out batting by himself and that's how he became one of the greatest hitters of all time? Do you think Michael Jordan didn't play with a freaking coach? He didn't have people teaching him and correcting him and making sure that he was doing the things that he needed to do to make sure that his team was winning? You know what I mean? It's like crazy because people come into trading because it's like, oh yeah, there's just a $10 $10 barrier to entry essentially. You got 10 bucks, you can be a trader. And it's kind of like the equivalent of I think someone said it's like, yeah, like it's the equivalent of being told that you hear surgery exists and you go out and buy a scalpel and then you just are doing surgery. You're just doing brain surgery. Like you're not gonna, you might be able to save someone's life once. Yeah, but in the end, you're not gonna do real well long term, you know? Right. It's just like you have to get that guidance. It's just so much easier. Like, do you want to learn how to trade and do it all on your own in 4 years? Or do you just want to, I don't know, learn from someone else and cut that 4 years down to 1 year, down to 2 years? You know?
Because again, you're never saying that it's going to be overnight. You're never saying that it's going to be this like instant thing. Even with mentorship, that's never what it's going to be. Even the guys that come in and do well off the jump, they still end up reaching a point of struggle at some point in that first year, where they hit a downturn, where they fall into a bias, where they do go a little negative or whatever it may be, and then they need to be pulled out. And that's like what you're saying. I think every high performance person has had a coach. Even actors and actresses, they have, I don't know if you'd call them therapists, maybe just life coaches, whatever you'd like to call them, that they consult with about big decisions. Every high performance person has coaches and mentors in their life. So to think that trading is anything but that is crazy. I definitely agree with you. And I love that example of the scalpel without ever getting your medical degree. That's pretty funny. So for everybody that is still here with us, we appreciate you so much. Gwendolyn, tell everybody where they can find you. I'm going to put all of Gwendolyn's information down in the description so you guys can get in touch with her. But if you want to just let them know where you're at, G, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you can find me, Instagram is amber.gwendolyn. And if you look me up on Facebook, it's just Gwendolyn Bridges.
I like it. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Gwendolyn and I appreciate you very much for hanging out with us. If you want to get in touch, links are in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
See you guys.